Oh, hey, what's going on, everyone? Vega here for SerpentX Tech. Welcome back to another. What is going on with the camera? Welcome back to another episode of Caffeine and Crypto. I'm your host, SerpentX Tech, Vega, whatever you want to call me. As we go over this week's crypto news, as you can see here, Bitcoin sitting at 118,000, Ethereum still over 4K, XRP still over $3. We got a few that tried to climb back up after the recent dip, but over this past week, we did some fun stuff. Looks like we were going to make a new all-time high. Bitcoin was climbing up to 127K. But, of course, the party ended really quickly. So we hit 124 on some exchanges. It is a new all-time high for Bitcoin looking at the daily. And you can see, earlier this week, we were looking promising. This week started on the 11th or 10th of the 11th. 10th was Sunday. And you can see we had a green Sunday. Monday, we had a little bit of a pullback. And then Tuesday, Wednesday were our takeoff days. Thursday looked like it was going to be another promising day. But, of course, people took profits. Can't blame them. And I did mention on X, if you're not following me there, don't be ashamed to take profits. I know a lot of people are trying to play the long game, which is what I would recommend. But if there's an opportunity for you to take profits, to take care of some debt, some bills, family situations, medical bills, whatever it might be, please go ahead and do what's best for you in your situation. But my recommendation is to play the long game. Even though this is not financial advice, like Bitcoin ain't going anywhere, right? We got too many different companies and organizations that are planning to buy this asset, and even some news about that, especially government-wise, in this week's episode of Caffeine and Crypto. So make sure you hit that like button for me. Share this out to your grandma, your grandpa, mammies, aunties, theos, uncles, whatever you got. And let's get into it, right? Good morning, and thank you for stopping by. Son of Rabbit. Not going to say the rest of that. Northern Crypto and Tech, Crypto Pounder 4, Crypto Craig, Automatic Beats, and Crypto Mikkel. Thank you all for stopping by. Adam Williams, appreciate you. Got your coffee ready? Let's get into it. So, Bitcoin soars past 124K, a new all-time high. 4 tailwinds behind the momentum. Bitcoin just hit that new all-time high. It's probably going to keep climbing, but it didn't. There are 4 trends that make higher prices quite likely from here, and 10 stocks we like better than Bitcoin. Now, this is just Yahoo. Yahoo's going to give you all of its recommendations. You can see the stocks over here on the right, like OpenAI, Intel, Nvidia, New, TeraWulf, so on and so forth. The catalyst that I mentioned over the past couple weeks is a rate cut from the Fed. Right? So we have that rate cut, which we're looking at September 17th for that Fed meeting, or a meeting in September, where hopefully the chances of them cutting rates is higher, and we get a rate cut, even if it's just 0.25 basis points. Any rate cut would do. We have the continued ETF inflows. We have retail getting involved more heavily than they have been, along with the dramatic inflows. All of those things are going to be the catalyst that launches Bitcoin towards, 150,000 or above. We would like for that to happen before the end of this year, but there are some chances, even though people are calling for 200K Bitcoin, there are some chances that Bitcoin could fall. Now, let's go look at that real quick. Let's say Bitcoin falls from where it is right now this upcoming week. Where could we fall to? Well, if we look at the EMA ribbons on the daily, you can see there's a target around 115, 114, somewhere in that range, right? And then beyond that, we're looking at 111, 112, maybe 110. And then beyond that, we're looking at 102, 104, somewhere in that range. And then if you're going to go beyond the EMA ribbons, you're going to have some structure that's back here in the past, right? You see here, if I circle this area, there's a lot of support right here in this area. If I move out of your way like an idiot, hang on one second. There's a lot of support right here, okay? So there's a lot of opportunity that people are going to gobble up if Bitcoin does fall from its current trajectory. So we got a lot of support on the way down. So we're just stair-stepping our way up to new all-time highs. But if we fell, could we go all the way back to the 50K that was mentioned in last week's episode or in last week's short on the channel? Well, a 50K pullback from where we are right now, or down to 50K from where we are right now, would basically be, if I zoom out, a 57% pullback. Again, in the past, a 20 to 25% pullback was not uncommon, right? That's certainly within the realm of possibility in the past. But the environment for Bitcoin these days is completely different. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's just too many people just waiting on the sidelines, ready to buy up Bitcoin. They think 100K is too high. They miss their chances, and they're not willing to pull the trigger. They might be buying at 105, 102, 92, 88, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, so speaking of 88, the bottom of this structure right here on the short-term time frame is 76K. The top of it is around 88K. And I think 88K would be the fall, like the fall and like the last stand of Bitcoin if it did fall that hard. I don't think it will fall that hard unless there was a black swan event or some serious negativity, I guess, going on in the crypto space. But the ETF inflows are still looking good, right? So iShares Bitcoin Trust showed nearly 89 billion in net assets as of August 12th, a live proxy for the substantial coin balance held off market. Persistent inflows across ETF landscapes have repeatedly tightened Bitcoin's floating supply available for public trading, right? The supply is less and less. Corporations, financial institutions, treasuries, everybody is accumulating Bitcoin, making goals to accumulate Bitcoin. Let's say, for example, Crypto Mikkel and myself establish a business, and we call it, Coin Banks R Us or whatever, and we say we have 10,000 Bitcoin, but we want to accumulate 80,000 Bitcoin by 2028. Well, that means our company is going to set market, buys at certain points, right? We're gonna every quarter, every so often, every few months, every year, we're going to accumulate X amount of Bitcoin, regardless of the price, because we want to get to 80,000 Bitcoin by 2027, 2028, whatever the target is. We have multiple companies doing that, ladies and gentlemen. Multiple companies doing that. The government is planning on buying Bitcoin. Now, there is some concern because of recent news. We're going to see that later on in the show, so stay tuned. But there's just too much of these entities that are attributing or stating they will buy XYZ Bitcoin. As of August 13th, there's roughly 1.5 million Bitcoins held in ETFs, 935,498 held by public companies, and 517,000 attributed to other countries, together representing more than 14% of Bitcoin supply cap of 21 million. So 14% of the overall supply. Again, retail still has a majority of that Bitcoin. There's still some true OGs out there, some of the forefathers in the space that have a large majority of Bitcoin, but companies are catching up, or corporations are catching up quite quickly. The U.S. Treasury Secretary rules out new Bitcoin buys, right? So this was Thursday, the same day that Bitcoin started to fall. So they're attributing this statement into why Bitcoin fell. I don't think this is the entire encompassing picture. Obviously, when you move up, people are going to take profits regardless of what the Treasury says, the government says, your favorite influencer online says, whatever it might be. But Bitcoin fell below 119K when the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the government will not make new Bitcoin purchases to fund the Bitcoin reserve. So what that means is the Bitcoin that they already have, the Bitcoin that they already accumulated from, let's say, for example, the Silk Road seizures or other FBI or other government seizures of assets due to the exchange's negligence or fraud behavior or whatever it might be. Those cryptocurrencies that the federal government in the U.S., not other countries, but in the U.S., that they have already on their balance sheet, they're going to stick with that for right now. They're not planning on buying or purchasing new Bitcoin at this time. That doesn't mean they're not going to get more. There could be additional seizures by the federal government of assets from nefarious organizations, exchanges that aren't doing right by their users, whatever it might be. But yeah, Bitcoin fell below the 120K psychological support level as it traded around 118,000 at time of writing. We can see where it is right now. It is basically right below or right around 118,000 after hitting an all-time high of 124,457 earlier on Thursday. The decline followed Bess's comments in an interview with Fox Business where he confirmed that the government would not buy more Bitcoin. We've all started to get into the 21st century, a Bitcoin reserve. We're not going to be buying that, but we are going to use confiscated assets, continue to build that up. All right. So they're going to continue to build their Bitcoin position by confiscating uh, organizations, individuals, people who probably aren't doing right by their users or individuals or just law abiding whatsoever, right? Just nefarious personnel. We know that DJT signed an executive order on March 6th, establishing both a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a separate digital asset stockpile, both of which will initially use cryptocurrency forfeited in government criminal cases. Trump's order opened the door for additional Bitcoin purchases by the U.S. Treasury via budget-neutral strategies that do not impose incremental costs on U.S. state taxpayers. And there's a number of government officials who advise and actually have a plan or proposal in place on how the U.S. government can accumulate more Bitcoin without using the U.S. taxpayers' money. I know that was a big pain point, and a lot of people were uneducated saying, I don't want you to spend my tax money on Bitcoin. I don't like Bitcoin. Don't use my tax money on that. Don't use my Social Security. Don't use that. That was not correct. The proposals would use what they already have, whether it's to sell a little bit of gold, not all the gold, but a little bit of gold to buy Bitcoin, to sell a little bit of some of the other reserves that the U.S. government has access to and a bountiful supply of, and convert that and get more Bitcoin exposure. But those plans never got into effect. Henceforth, we have Benson, who advocated for a strategic shift in a U.S. approach to Bitcoin reserve, telling CNBC and signaling the White House Crypto Summit that the government should stop selling seized Bitcoin and bring it onshore. So let's maintain what we have here in the United States, says Bessett, and what we have already seized, and try to bring the regulatory frameworks, the clarity, which we already got multiple good news efforts out of that for the Clarity Act and the regulatory framework that's being built here in the U.S. It's just they're not going to buy new Bitcoin at this time. Not a major pitfall, in my opinion. I know that makes some of the Bitcoin maxis kind of frown, but I think it is a smart decision right now. I think they will eventually start buying Bitcoin as the U.S. government will see the benefit in gaining that additional exposure. Just right now, it's just going to maintain their seizures or the Bitcoin that they seize in the past and build upon that and regulate as best they can. He said after victims of financial misconduct are compensated, any remaining seized coins will be added to the National Bank Reserve, putting the U.S. in a position to lead in global crypto. And we had a number of different companies do that, right? We had our BlockFi. We had our Celsius. We had a number of different companies who overpromised, underdelivered, pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme, whatever you want to call it. And then when the U.S. government gets involved and they're able to gain access to those assets, they can add more to their pile. And there's still plenty of them out there right now. Maybe there's not a legal battle going on, but there's plenty of bad actors out there trying to take advantage of their users. In April, Bo Hines, who at the time was part of the Presidential Council of Advisors for Digital Assets, said that administration was exploring funding options for Bitcoin acquisitions, include tariff revenue and a reevaluation of the Treasury's gold certificates. As I mentioned, selling some of those gold certificates to buy Bitcoin. Whatever revenue they get from tariffs, I'd be interested to see how they would allocate that to Bitcoin, but we'll just have to wait and see. According to this article, Thursday's drop came just hours after the Bitcoins briefly took Google's 2.4 trillion market capitalization. Now, something I also noted on X is we were over 4 trillion as a whole for the crypto market, which is good to see, right? And could Bitcoin hit gold's target of 24 trillion market cap? And if that were to happen, you can extrapolate from there what Bitcoin's valuation would be. We're looking at $1 million plus asset if Bitcoin were to hit that $2.24 trillion market cap. But of course, you can see by the candle, and if we go to the daily, right, we can see this big drop. This drop from that all-time high measures from there to there a 5.2% drop. That's not big for anybody who's been in the Bitcoin space for a long time. That is not big whatsoever. We're used to 20%, 15%, 25, 30% drawdowns. But still, this was a big drawdown considering we were marching towards a new all-time high. Besant, of course, saying to everybody, hey, the government is going to stop selling is a positive indicator. It's just offsetted by the fact that the US government is not going to add to their stockpile through purchases of Bitcoin, which would help the Bitcoin price appreciate. But we got plenty of banks, organizations, and entities that are buying Bitcoin at the same time. So just because the US government isn't adding to their balance sheet through new purchases doesn't mean that we should just give up and end the deal there. No, there's a lot of great things happening from regulatory framework, from organizations across the world and various areas or I can't think today, sectors that are going to continue to buy Bitcoin, and it's just going to be something that accumulates over time. But yeah, they're going to hang on to their Bitcoin. The national debt still needs to be dealt with, and there's still a lot of concerns about the tariff. But the money supply continues to grow. Bitcoin continues to look promising. Companies continue to push forward. It's all good in the hood. Just chill out. Who's cashing out of Bitcoin at record highs above 120K? You know, a lot of people will question this, right? Even though I said on X, go ahead and take profits, take care of your business, handle your bills, whatever it might be. You know, a lot of other people will look at you and be like, why are you selling? You're an idiot. Why are you selling? And I understand that, right? I would question it to an extent, but you got to do what's best for you, okay? You got to do what's best for your household, your family, whatever it might be. So if there's an opportunity, right? If you were able to get into Bitcoin at 3,200 and you only invested $1,000, but now you got 10 grand and you got a $5,000 medical bill, yo, do you, right? You made your money back. You're about to pay off this medical bill. You still got 5 in the game. Like, I understand it. Don't let the outside world impact you and your decisions that you need to make for your household. Long-term holders have accelerated their selling, impacting market momentum. According to observers, blockchain data reveals a decline of over 300,000 BTC held by long-term wallets in the past 4 weeks, with dormant wallets becoming active. This was one of my biggest concerns, and I made 2 videos about this, not only in Caffeine and Crypto, but a dedicated video. Is some of these dormant wallets that's been Satoshi era wallets that's been dormant, how do we know that's actually the true owner of those wallets and some entity, whatever it might be, whether it's Lazarus over in North Korea, whether it's state-sponsored in China, whether it's Israel, whether it's Palestine, it doesn't matter. How do we know that those countries haven't got some type of quantum-ish type neural network that they're using to crack these wallets, gain access, because the public key is already exposed online, gain access through brute force and trial by error, right, to gain access to these wallets, produce the private key, and then go ahead and sell. Hopefully it's the original owner. Again, stoked for them if it is. But just how quickly all these dormant wallets have been started to come online and how many news articles we're hearing about it has me a little bit concerned on, is it the rightful owner of said organizations? Give me 1 second. It's institutional call overriding has led to reduced volatility, while strong demand at 118K levels supports the market amid macroeconomic tailwinds. Since mid-July, Bitcoin's ascent has slowed above 120K. Price hits a new high, blah, blah, blah. 124, gets pulled back, blah, blah, blah. Momentum, blah, blah, blah. This raised the question, who is cashing out of Bitcoin and adding selling pressure to the market? According to observers, the answer lies in the blockchain data, which shows old wallets that have been liquidating their holdings. So in summary, it's the older wallets that probably held on since 2008, 2010, 2011, right? The old heads taking profits and probably moving into other ventures, right? Whether it's opening up a new mining farm or getting more machines or paying off their house in Massachusetts and in Virginia and then buying a car for their new 16-year-old. You know, the old heads, if they held on to Bitcoin when it was before it, you know, before it hit $100, like, they're basically millionaires, and so they're gonna go ahead and sell their money or their Bitcoin in order to expand their position, maybe diversify, right? Grab a couple of houses, pay off a couple of cars, buy that new Ferrari they wanted, buy that new Lambo they wanted, whatever it might be. Old heads, cool, but if it's not the old heads and they're gone, and somebody's cracked their wallets, that's very concerning for the future. But that's basically why we're having some of the sell pressure, right? You have one of those old heads sell a dramatic amount of Bitcoin, right? Let's say this old head has 100K Bitcoin. He sells about 20K of it, bringing back, a decent penny. But he starts the avalanche, right? That's all it takes, right? One rock, one snowball to start the roll downwards, and then it starts the whole chain to move downwards. And then, if we switch over to the 4-hour, right, you can see it, right? You can see it. We got this first one right here. Maybe the old head starts it, and it breaks down 1.62%, going from 124 to 121, right? But then that triggers, as it goes down, that triggers automated trading bots, that triggers some valuations, maybe some signal bots, whatever it might be. Your webhooks start going off in Discord, Telegram, whatever, and next thing you know, we got another drawdown, right, on the 4-hour. Here we got another 1%, right, going from 122 to 120. And then that triggers some more, right? Some stop losses, that triggers some more, right? And so now here we have another drawdown of 3.23, 3.3, right? Going from 121 to 117. So the old head may have started the avalanche, but they're not solely responsible for the pullback. You see what I'm saying? It could be linked to concentrated selling pressure from long-term holders who have recently accelerated their sellings, says Gabriel Ham. Historically, long-term holders' selling phases are cleanly defined within the Bitcoin cycle. This time, however, the accumulation during the Q2 pullback has given way to renewed selling, suggesting the market structure may be shifting. The supply of Bitcoin controlled by long-term holders or wallets with a history of owning coins for 155 days or more has declined by over 300,000 in 4 weeks. Several dormant wallets inactive for over a decade have become active in the past 4 weeks, moving coins on-chain for the first time in years, possibly taking profits. Blockchain analytics from Gasnode stated last week that profit taking by long-term holders continue, albeit a slower rate than in July. BTC profit realization by long-term holders has slowed in August after a July run consistently above 1 billion per day, one of the largest profit-taking periods on record. Sam Gear, who is the chief investment officer of Morok Asset Management Directional Fund, stated that supply from ancient wallets have been capping upside, but has been largely absorbed well, right? So even though there are some concerns that these wallets are coming online and selling, the market has absorbed those hits pretty dang well, which is showing the maturity of Bitcoin. So even though the price appreciation is not where some of us might want it, the market structure and the way Bitcoin is handling it is impressive and shows Bitcoin is here for the long haul, right? Even if, like we did in the past, right, when Germany liquidated its holdings, market absorbed that, no problem. When a country sells, hundreds of thousands of its Bitcoin because it needs to do XYZ, the market absorbs that. So even if billionaires are in the game and they have hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin and they sell 25%, 5%, 10%, 50% of their holdings, the market is capable of holding it down. Whereas in the past, if we were to go far, far back, something like this, the amount of Bitcoin being sold at one time would have been devastating to Bitcoin. No more. So while I'm mad that the suits are in the game, and I do not want the suits to control the game, I want the retail investors to have the majority of the Bitcoin, not the suits, the centralized entities, the banks, because that's not who it was intended for. While the suits, I don't want them as much in the game as I want retail, it doesn't matter if they're in, because Bitcoin has matured enough, has grown enough, that it can handle whether the suits wants to flip-flop or not, right? Well, we're playing the long game. We've been hanging on to it for 7+ years. It doesn't matter if the suits are in the game because Bitcoin can handle it. So the resiliency of Bitcoin is basically what it boils down to. That's my soapbox conversation. You let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below or in the live chat. But yeah, price levels in Bitcoin have tended to consolidate around the psychological levels, 100K, 110, 120, and specifically around all-time high. This same pattern has been seen just last month at 110K level as we touched all-time highs of 112 and then drifted lower several times. The persistent selling of higher strike calls by institutions could have influenced the rally speed. They typically do so to earn additional yield on the top of the spot market holdings. According to Gear, the so-called call overriding has led to volatile meltdown, implied volatility, which represents expected price turbulence over a specific period, is driven by demand for options. And those option traders are going ham. They're like, it's I'm not a big options guy or derivatives guy, but like looking at the calls and the puts, like those guys are going ham. And I'm not talking about stocks. I'm talking about specifically just crypto. Call overriding activity by long-term holders continues in a seemingly unabated fashion, with a vol crush that left Bitcoin with weekend volumes in the teens, unheard of in his experience. I used the phrase 40 in the new 60 is the new 60, referencing the overall BTC volatility repricing. This is a historical sign of market maturity. Okay, so Bitcoin is maturing. The groundwork is being laid. The foundation is being cured. The regulatory framework is moving forward. Clarity is being provided. All of that is positive, and we continue to get positive news, just not price appreciation. We got some price appreciation, but right now what I'm expecting is Bitcoin, if not in August, but in September, should be anywhere between 135K to 150K. That's just my prediction, and I'm just some guy on the internet, so please do not trade based upon my saying. But let's just calculate that, right? Let's say that we continue to chop through August. Maybe we fall all the way back down to 113, 112, right? If we were to go from that area of 112 to 150K, that's a 33% increase. Again, certainly within the realm of possible. But, let the dormant wallets, the legacy wallets, sell their Bitcoin. They're going to hang on to what else they have left, right? They might only sell 20%, 50%, whatever. They're going to hold on to what they have left. And next time, there will be nothing to slow us down moving forward, right? You're going to have inflows, new retail investment, excitement, and rate cuts. Dude, that's going to be an even bigger, not avalanche, but like blow off top. Moving on to altcoins, XRP shed 7% on a $437 million sell spike as 1 billion liquidations hit crypto market, right? Obviously, we had a large liquidation. 1 billion liquidation occurred with XRP price dropping from $3.34 to $3.10, testing critical support levels. Late session buying suggests renewed interest from large holders as the selling pressure was erased. Again, we're seeing market maturity, guys. We're seeing market maturity. So yes, the price is down, but in the grand scheme of things, everything is looking promising for the future. If you're worried about right now, today, this minute, this second, you're playing the wrong game. Play the long game. Prepare for the future. You need to be looking weeks, months, years in advance in preparation for your family, your financial wealth, and your well-being. Stop focusing on instant gratification and for today. That's how you get wrecked. Focused on the long game, zoom out in the chart. XRP fell though in the last 24 hours. At the time of writing this article was written on August 15th, right? So yesterday yesterday morning at 1:13 a.m. and then it was published at that same time. But it fell over the 24 hours time frame to large-scale liquidations that swept through the market, pushing the token to its lowest levels in over a week before signs of stabilization emerged. I'm used to XRP being sub $1, so it's still in the $3. Like, it's still in the $3. Like, I'm not crying. And I don't have big exposure into XRP, and I know some of you do. I know a lot of my friends do. I don't personally like XRP, but that doesn't mean you don't need to like XRP. And you can see, July has been a glorious month for XRP. And while it was probably marching up Monday, August 11th, before it pulled back following the following days and had a little, it's making a good structure right now. You can see where the support is, right? You can see we bounced off of it 1, 2, 3. So that $3 zone, somebody's holding that son bitch. Some Spartans are sitting there holding that line at $3 right now. So I think XRP is going to stabilize. Everybody's going to stabilize, and we'll see how things go this upcoming week. We could pull back a little bit further. Altcoins might suffer a little bit more, but Bitcoin holds steady wherever it's at. 118, 120, doesn't matter. Altcoins rise up, and then we move on to the next leg. Good morning, Ontario Miner. US Puff says, try to keep up. They're not the original holders. Read note 1. First message, legal notice. We have taken possession of this wallet and its contents. The 80,000 Bitcoin were not sold, just moved to a new address. So who was doing the selling? US Putts? Or who was doing the moving, right? We have taken possession of this wallet and its contents. Who is that? And who was the original owner? Right? So like, what if it's your wallet? What if that was your 80,000 Bitcoin? And they have a legal notice. They have taken possession of this wallet. What are your rights? How do you fight that? What if that was your 80,000 Bitcoin? What would you do? I could understand if the person's no longer around, right? Maybe the family needs to move things and they left a will or power of attorney, and they needed to make some things happen. I could understand that. But what if it's, Chris Vega, but then Case Rocker comes in and somehow was able to legally take possession of the wallet, even though I didn't authorize it? So how does that work? It says legal notice, we've taken possession of this wallet and its contents, but like, just saying it's not the original owner. But that's my concern. It's these wallets, there's multiple wallets that have been dormant that have just started selling lately. And these people are able to just take it? That's concerning, right? Which is why I came out. I'm not sure if you guys seen this, and whether it's quantum computing related or not. Let me switch the power to the light. Whether it's quantum computing able to crack the wallet, or just some legal matter, whatever it might be, that's concerning. That is just straight up concerning. So as far as quantum computing though, my recommendation for you, wherever you are, X, Twitch, doesn't fucking matter, okay? Is watch this video. It's only got 267 views. It's not the hottest topic. I understand that. If you have an old school wallet, consider moving your funds from that old school wallet. It might be out of the 7, right? You and I, Putz, are talking about the one wallet, the 80,000 Bitcoin, which has a legal notice that says we have taken possession of this wallet and its contents. Yes, so that accounts for that one 80,000 wallet. But what about the other 6? Again, some of these legacy wallets' public keys have been exposed. And I bet you that data is stored on a server somewhere for when a quantum computer owned by a state sponsor, government, whatever, is up and running and is capable, right? Everybody's concerned about quantum computing in 2035 or beyond. I'm not as concerned. But it's something I want you guys to think about and be prepared about. Because if you are a legacy holder of Bitcoin and you're using a really, 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 really old wallet that had its public key already exposed, you need to move that thing. And then here's where Putt says exactly what I'm talking about. The facts are that we're moved to a multi-sig wallet. Move your funds to a more secure wallet. By the way, again, in this video where I talk about Bitcoin's quantum threat, there's different wallet standards that I mentioned. And multi-sig is a great opportunity, right? You can have you, your daughter, your son, you, your wife, your mother. You guys can be on that wallet, need 2 signatures to move XYZ, whatever you want to do. Always have redundancies in plan. But if you're an OG in the space and you've been using the same wallet since 2008, please move it. That public key is exposed. Get those funds off of that legacy wallet and move it to a newer wallet. You should already be doing this. by default, whenever you use your Bitcoin wallet, whether it's Ledger or whatever, every time you use or transact, it does give you a new address to send with. It does give you, no, not to send with, but to receive with. But when you send, you might be using the same address over and over and over again. So there's different types of Bitcoin addresses, standards, SegWit, native SegWit, legacy. Just use a new standard, and eventually, when quantum computing becomes more of a threat in the 2030s or above, by that time there should be a BIP, or Bitcoin Improvement Proposal, that's going to set a standard for new wallets where if you are using one of these really, really old wallets that have been exposed in some capacity, those wallets will not be able to do anything. So definitely move those funds. But yeah, so 80,000 of the Bitcoin is accounted for as far as it not being the original owner that's selling, but whoever was able to take, through their legal notice, possession of that $80,000 Bitcoin, or 80,000 Bitcoin, which didn't sell, as Put says, but moved it, that accounts for one. My concern is, how many more are we going to see of this? We've seen 7 so far. There's probably a couple more that we're not aware of that haven't hit the news because they're not as big. Are they the true owners? Are they, did somebody was able to crack their wallets? Did somebody crack the owner over the top of the head with a wrench, take their wallet and move to a different country? I don't know. But these legacy wallets are all waking up all of a sudden, and they're either moving funds. They may not be selling, but they're either moving funds or taking profits to a certain percentage. And that's where I've been kind of like banging on the pots about for the past couple weeks. Moving back to XRP, market-wide liquidations exceed 1 billion, amplifying downside pressure across major currencies. XRP sell-off coincided with a midday capitulation event, with the volume reaching 436 million. One of the largest single-hour prints in a quarter. Ripple CTO reiterated that XRP's ledger's readiness for global financial infrastructure use offer fundamental support and technical weakness. Broader crypto markets declined, aligned with the profit-taking in U.S. equities, shifting risk sentiment to the downside. So majority of the risk assets this past week took a hit. That's basically it. Right? Again, we're still waiting for the catalyst that we talked about at the beginning of this video, which is the rate cuts through the Feds in September, continuous inflows or maybe some record-setting inflows, and retail getting involved in the space. I'm not a big XRP fan, but if you are, this to me looks like a buying opportunity, or at least a dollar cost average opportunity. Not financial advice. I'm just saying the price is down, right? Buy low, sell high. U.S. Fed to end oversight over programs for banks and crypto activities. A lot of banks were, especially under Gary Gensler, were not permitted to purchase Bitcoin and to add crypto to its balance sheets. Well, it looks like that program might be diminishing to a certain extent. So it says here they'll sunset the program specifically to monitor a bank's digital asset activities and would integrate them back into its standard supervisory process. So they're going to supervise. They're not keeping a blind eye, but they're going to supervise, see how things go. Probably have a couple banks do trial runs and see how things work out for them and their configuration. But the Federal Reserve Board said it will end the novel activities, the supervision program set up in 2023 that supervise certain activities related to crypto assets and distributed ledger technology. In a Friday notice, the Fed said that it will sunset the program and return to monitoring banks' novel activities through the normal supervisory process. It said that it would focus on the program will be focused on risky assets, and include supervision of banks providing deposits, payments, and lending to crypto asset related entities and fintech. Since the board started its program to supervise certain crypto and fintech activities in banks, the board has strengthened its understanding of those activities. So it's an education, right? The board and the people that regulate this environment need to be educated in this environment. And you got a lot of people in those various government agencies that are getting educated properly. It just takes time. It takes time for them to, if you try to explain somebody to Bitcoin right now, a random person, it might take you a little bit to get them to understand. But once they understand, they're like, wow, that's really cool. But then, yeah, the Federal Reserve Board is just going to monitor activities related to risk, bank risk management practices. As a result, the board is integrating the knowledge and the supervision of those activities back into the standard supervisory process and is rescinding its 2023 supervisory letter, creating the program. Here's the point, guys. For all 27 of you watching on YouTube, 1 of you on X, and 21 of you on on 1 of you on Twitch and 21 of you on X. This is going to open up. If you work in the banking sector, the financial sector, and you are familiar with blockchain or crypto and have a strong fundamental understanding, this is a job opportunity, guys. This is a job opportunity. These banks are going to want to hire you. So if you are familiar with the banking sector, the financial sector, and you love crypto, you love blockchain and what it stands for, try to look for some of these jobs that are going to be out there. As these banks, are allowed to, perform these duties with less constraint, they're going to need your expertise to educate them, to guide them, to show them. So this is good news for the banks, good news for crypto, and possibly good news for employment. Just my opinion. Moving on, Bitcoin charts right now, I kind of agree with this. Bitcoin charts are similar to the 2021 top. Will history rhyme? The crypto trader said Bitcoin is at key resistance, similar to the level where it topped in 2021, but other traders argue historical charts can't be applied to this cycle. Well, they're saying, while one trader is saying like 2021 as far as like, this is it, this is the top, guys, we're not going any higher. I would argue there's a different structure that we're kind of following from 2021 that I would put us more in the like bottom mid range. Let's see here, 2021. So that high and then that high. So that high was 64K. This high was 68K. I don't think that's where we're at. Where's the other one? There we go. This right here. So if you look below me, right, I feel like we just did this. This is more like 2019. Right? I feel like we just did this. We might chop sideways. We might fall. Right? I don't think we're going to go back to the Black Swan 32K. But like if this chart continued, if we just lay this over, so this line right here. If we continued this trajectory, right, and just continued it here, that's where I feel like we're at. If we remove and omit the Black Swan event, we might chop sideways for much of the end of 2025 and then start marching up end of 2025 into 2026 with some pullback in December or Christmas of 2025. That's my personal opinion. I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me. There's plenty of great guys out there and ladies out there that do some great trading advice. I don't think they can give you financial advice, but there's some pretty established traders and have some very knowledgeable insights. I would urge you to check them out. One of my favorites, by the way, that's not just focused on crypto is the Traveling Trader, right? Z, pretty intelligent guy. Bitcoin's price chart is starting to mimic the pattern it's displayed when it reached the previous cycle highs of 69K in November 2021, according to Crypto Trader. Others argue that the charts don't tell the full story amid mounting demand for Bitcoin. And again, the charts don't tell the full story because the environment is different, in my personal opinion. Technical analysis often compare Bitcoin's price to similar patterns in the past cycles to figure out when the price might peak, when to sell, and when money may start rotating into other assets. Has anyone else noticed that the topping price action in 2021 looks exactly the same as the current price action? Crypto Trader, Nebraskan Gooner said on X on Thursday, pointing out the chart showing what appeared to be a double top pattern, often viewed by traders as bearish. I can see that. I can see the double top for sure, right? But I think the environment's just too different. We can make some similarities with the past, and while it might often rhyme, as K-Dub says, I think the environment's just way too different. So July, August, down in September, up in the market cycle, top in Q4, bear market. I think it might do the opposite of that. But I think here's the thing, though. I'm saying that, but as I'm saying that out loud, a lot of people are calling for explosive move at the end of 2025. What if that doesn't come? If everybody's saying that Bitcoin's going to do this, it will sometimes do the exact opposite, leaving us all like, oh, well, we were expecting this, but that clearly didn't happen. So what if it does the exact opposite? What if this was it? What if that was the top? Making you think, huh? I don't think it is, but I can certainly see why some traders are calling for it. But I know the bears would love for Bitcoin to go down to 88K, 50K. I understand that. I just think there's too many organizations, entities that are just going to be willing to gobble up Bitcoin in its current setting, even at lower prices, even more. That I don't think that will happen. I do think we're going to have a pullback at some point in time. We can't continue to move up. I mean, this long-term bull trend. I mean, look at this. We've been on a bullish trend on the daily if we go back since November 2022. Yes, we had pullbacks, but like that's a long-term bull run. I'm sure these guys would love nothing more than to have like a November 2021 to, you know, January 2023 bear market. I'm sure they would love that. And I agree with this statement here too. So Peter Brandt says, anyone that looks at the charts and tries to tell you where anything is going is actually just kind of fooling themselves. I don't know what the future holds. I just know that the environment is completely different. So the chart is one way or one indicator or one information source, one variable, but ultimately you got to do what's best for you. And it doesn't really matter for you and I, right? For you and I, and maybe not everybody that's watching, but most of us are just dollar cost averaging, right? Through Cash App, Coinbase, whatever exchange you want, Venmo, I don't care. You're just trying to buy $10 here, $20 there, whatever, trying to gain exposure. I would urge you, whatever you're using, to make sure that you can at least, send that crypto to yourself in a different private wallet, not store it on these centralized entities, or not have access to your private keys through Coinbase or Cash App or Venmo, but, at least you're getting exposure. And because, we're living paycheck to paycheck, we can only do so much. We can only invest so much. We're just accumulating little bits by bits. But for the bigger guys or the people that shit $10,000 a night, they can trade this on a regular basis. Bitcoin follows the M2 money supply chart almost exactly. Check it out. Yeah, we talked about it last week, Putz. CryptoRS, George. We are all George. Just look at the M2 money supply chart. That's all you need. Yeah, we talked about that last week, Putz, which you were not here. But all indicators are looking good for the long term. Yes, we had a short time pullback, but just zoom out. Like you said, money supply, ETF inflows, retail getting more heavily involved, and a rate cut. Baby, all we need is that rate cut. Jerome, that's all we need. That's all we need. Come on, do it. Anyways, moving up as we get wrapped up for Red Panda Mining to go live here in a little bit. We got 10 minutes left. Norway's sovereign wealth fund boosted Bitcoin exposure by 83% in Q2, Standard Chartered says. So again, companies, government officials, government entities, banks, all accumulating, all adding that exposure to Bitcoin. Ether's looking pretty good lately. I know a lot of the miners have got out of the Ether, but Ether's been looking pretty good. If you look at the chart here, especially if we look at the Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart, I mean that's a half pipe, ladies and gentlemen. At least one side of it, right? I mean, look at that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Just whoop. I could drop that all day. But yeah, on the daily, Ethereum's looking pretty dang solid. It hit recently a 47. What was it? 4776 is what this chart says. Let's try to zoom all the way out real quick. And that was almost a new all-time high, but not quite. On this chart, at least, with this market, Bitfinex, We have the previous price set back in 2021 November of 48.50. So we need to break 48.50, and Ethereum will make a new all-time high. But if we look at the Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart, I mean, previously, as you can see here, Ethereum has been on a severe downtrend compared to Bitcoin. It was just getting demolished. But all of a sudden, recently, it's been having a nice uptick. Right? Too bad we can't mine it anymore. Those were the good old days. But yeah, Ethereum's looking good. We got an EMA ribbon flip happening right now in the daily. And yeah, there's a little bit of a pullback. But since basically May 8th, 2025, Ethereum's up 110% on the daily. That's pretty good. That's pretty damn good. But Ether is slightly more bullish path, right? We got more interest and sentiment into Ethereum. You know, 7K is definitely within the realm of possibility. That's what I'm eyeing right now. When that will happen, maybe 2026, Q2, Q1. I'll be surprised if we hit 7K Ethereum by the end of this year, but I don't know. Definitely the sentiments change. Even though there's still some concerns about Ethereum, they still need to tighten up some things, complete some EIPs. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. One user says if Bitcoin hits 150K, Ethereum can be 8K. One user says that it can pump all the way up to 75K. Another one says 85K. Yeah, so all in line with my theories, not financial advice, but all in line with my projections and theories and speculation. And that's exactly what it is, just speculation. Altcoin season could begin in September as Bitcoin gripped on the market weakens Coinbase institution. So let's go look at the altcoin season. I just want to see if US Putz is here still. All right, I can tag them. I'm not sure if they're here. Red Panda Mining is going live in a few minutes. Hang tight, guys. Where's the normal chart that I use? What's the normal chart you use for M2? I usually just look at the articles. I'm missing one. So the market cap is back below 4 trillion. The fear and greed 57 alt season. Here we go. So we started seeing it in the blue. If you look right here, right on the 90-day, we're in the blue for alt season. On the 30-day, we dipped into it, but then we fell back out. Right, we hit a peak of 1.72 trillion, and on the 7-day, we're back out of it again. I would like to see all three of these in the alt season index. To really say, I mean, it would be nice. It would definitely be nice, right? It would definitely be nice. But like Coinbase is calling for a full scale alt season in 2025. What is the chart though? Let's see here. Which one's the right chart? Because this isn't the right chart, and I keep losing. I need to add it to my favorites. Putz, link it. Can you drop a link in chat? I'm not sure if you could drop a link in chat. Actually, I know how to make you. All right, there you go. Now you could drop a link in chat. Drop the TradingView link in chat for me. But Coinbase and a number of others are calling for an alt season towards the end of 2025. I think the appetite is there. I agree with that, right? Ethereum, Solana, and other large caps, XRP. I mean, hell, even Litecoin and shit was looking pretty good recently. BNB, look at BNB, almost almost hit $900. Dogecoin climbed up pretty significantly before it fell. Cardano near $1. It's actually still near $1, even though everything fell. it didn't fall as hard, which is very interesting. Chainlink, finally, Chainlink is back over 20 bucks. Driving me crazy. Sue, below $4. I'd like to see that climb back up. A lot of the altcoins trying to build that momentum while Bitcoin was chopping sideways. And it'll be nice to have a nice major altcoin rally. Oh, okay. Trading View overlay BTC. Gotcha. Don't you gotta pay for that? Like, I don't pay for Trading View. All right. I'll look it up and I'll add it to my favorites later. But yeah, the M2 money supply, the chart that I had that I can't find for some fucking reason. Everything's looking good, guys. Just keep on, hold the course. Keep on keeping on. Everything will be fine. I got a friend's gathering to go to here in a little bit with the missus. Gonna celebrate life, have a good time, and I'm gonna play some more Battlefield 6 on over the weekend. I'll see you guys on there. I only play a couple rounds and then get off, so I don't really live stream it. But I hope you have yourself a wonderful day. You know, take care of yourselves. Stay positive. Don't get too crazy. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Putz. Yay! All right. So it was the one. It was the right one. But then you overlay that with Bitcoin. All right. Let me just. I didn't do that right. All right. It's on my watch list. I really don't care about a lot of things going on right now in crypto. Haven't been paying attention to every single thing. But either way, I'm playing the long game. I'm having fun mining Bitcoin, mining various other assets, accumulating. I'm enjoying life. So, sorry I haven't been producing the hotness. Sorry I haven't been giving like the best quality content. Sorry I'm not as involved as I used to be on social medias, but I got tired of caring and reaching out to my colleagues and people and try to show admiration and love and respect only to not get it in return. So I hope you guys are doing good. I love you guys. Okay, I'll see you around at various conventions, events, whatever it might be, but I'm not reached out to, I'm not called upon, even though I always made the active effort to reach out, make sure you're okay, make sure you're doing well. And I appreciate you, the supporter, who definitely reaches out, whether it's through Discord, X, social media, directly via email. I appreciate you because you guys just check in and say what's up. You also ask questions, which I love. Got a lot of questions about the Asus G16 laptop, which I am still running. Haven't had some of the issues the end user is experiencing, but yeah. Trade Ogre is still shit, by the way. Swamp 7, Trade Ogre. Trade Ogre is still shit. So I would not, I hope you got your funds off of it, but they have not done right by the end user. I don't think they ever resolved the Caspa situation. I dropped my conversation with them on X on one of mine sometimes posts, which basically said they were being extorted by 7 users within the crypto community. It could be community members, I don't know. But yeah, Trade Ogre has not done right by people. I know some of you have your funds locked in there, and I know some of you got your funds out. So hope you did. But yeah, never leave anything on an exchange long term. This is why I don't mine directly to an exchange address. If I do, I'm immediately getting rid of it. Like if it's some coin that just came out today, I'm mining it for 2-3 days. I'm immediately, converting it, getting it out, whatever, or moving it to an external wallet. I don't leave anything on there long term. I have been rugged in the past. I lost like $300 in Celsius, but then I got that back through the reimbursement program. I got my money out in time for BlockFi, or whatever the fuck that program was called. You know, these exchanges and these entities, they start off with good intent, but then they start getting money involved, and they start getting some of these influences from higher ups or more influential, more capital rich individuals, and then that changes the narrative, and then they start trying to see where they can make the most profit off of your back, off of your money, off of your investment. So everybody in the world is out for their own, which is unfortunate, because I'm not here on this planet just for my own selfish ambition, but just if you could walk around with the mindset that they're trying to screw you over, they're trying to screw you over, don't be fearful. Just understand you need to not put yourself in the position to get screwed over, right? You could be friends, you could shake hands with your enemies, whatever, but just understand you should not put yourself in a position. Don't sign a contract that's going to put you in a position to where if something goes wrong or they fuck up, you lose your assets, you lose your house, you lose your car, you lose whatever, right? Do not leave your money on exchange that's centralized, especially a D-tier exchange. I can understand Coinbase and some of the more popular exchanges, but the D-tier exchanges, no bueno, right? I wouldn't even leave it on Binance, to be honest. Bybit, maybe for like a month or two. Coinbase, I even still have some assets on there, but it's constantly moving as I mine, trade, withdraw, trade, mine, trade. But the D-tier exchanges, right, your trade ogres, your XTs, and no disrespect to these exchanges, but like the ZagX is gone now. There was one back in the day called Cryptopia that I really loved. Gone, right? Mt. Gox, gone. So don't leave it on these exchanges. Be smart. And you can see the red X's means they have not provided proof of reserves to Coinbase. If they don't have that red X, that means they have provided proof of reserves. Now, does that mean anything? No, not. It doesn't provide the full picture because it doesn't show you their liabilities. They might have shown you their reserves, but it doesn't show what they're liable for. So even though they have this much in total assets, you know, the liabilities will paint the full picture as to what if something goes wrong, right? Especially if they're holding a large percentage of their own asset, which is what a lot of those exchanges were doing, right? Like FTX had a lot of their own asset. So when that asset depegged and crashed, it screwed them over. BNB is only 12% of Binance's, right? Coinbase, I don't think even has like their own asset or whatnot. But some of these exchanges do, right? And you got to be careful of that. Because if they hold a large percentage of their own asset, like MX is only 12% of Mexi, but let's say that was 60%. That could be very bad news for that exchange if that asset depegged or had a hard crash or whatever it might be. But anyways, Red Panda Mining is live. Go ahead, hang on over there. Thanks so much for standing by with us and hanging out with us. Take care of yourselves. Everything's all good. Much love, respect to all of my colleagues, friends, fellow content creators, crypto influencers, wherever you are, and the supporters especially, because without the supporters, none of y'all will have the following that you do. So make sure you give back. Make sure you show respect to them and you thank them, because I thank you. Anyways, I'll see y'all later, and yeah, take care. Have yourself a wonderful day.